I'm going to go through all the things before we put a horse on a float. Now, a lot of horses I see, they've spent a lot of their, people spend hours and hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours training a horse to do a certain manoeuvre, to go in a competition, and all their days are spent training this horse. And then the one of the hardest places a horse will ever be is inside one of those little boxes. And if you're familiar with Australian roads, for the people that aren't from Australia, there's some pretty corrugated, potholey roads out there, and you might spend 2 or 3 or 4 hours driving along a pretty ordinary road, and it can be a hard experience on a horse. So I think it's really important we spend a little bit more time. And I know people are time poor, but we're not time poor when we're doing something we want to do. So I think we've got to sort of prioritise a little bit more time, because that's one of the hardest places a horse is going to have to be. So it's important to spend a bit more time getting them ready to be in there and cope with the whole process. Excuse me for the cough. Got a bit of a lurgy from the kids. Anyway, so we've got to be kind of creative. I've seen a lot of videos and stuff about, I can get this is how you get a horse on a horse float. It's not about getting the horse on the float. There's so many other things in it to get it to cope with floating. There's so many horses that can go on a horse float very quickly, but they sweat in horse floats, they pour, they scramble. There's all these problems because we never spend enough time building confidence to go in the horse float. It's not just obedience, it's also confidence, but we still need enough obedience for a horse to understand all our tools, that our tools are there to help them. So first of all, we think, okay, what's a horse got to cope with? So I like to lead my horses on first before I teach them to self-load, but they're going to have to learn how to self-load. So first of all, if I was leading a young horse onto a horse float, I want to know that I can draw their thoughts forward and bring them forward. Now, she thinks back, but then after that her thoughts come forward a little when she comes forward. Okay? So backwards and forwards is something you're really going to do a lot of on going on a horse float, because sometimes you've got to treat it as, I want the horse soft and connected to every part of that horse float, not just rushing to get in there and rushing to get out. So lots of backwards and forwards is going to be something you're going to be doing on the horse float. So I would teach my horses that I can interrupt them from backwards to forwards. So the quality of the backup has got to be good enough that a horse is not running backwards, fighting in the backup. You can just softly take them like that and take really soft steps. See how I can just take that feel on her, and then I can just stop her there and lean her forward, or I could just back her there. Now she still puts her head up a little because she's still a learning horse, and I'd like to get that out of her. But I think she's got enough feel in there to be able to help her, back off a little, come on a little, get a confidence with the feet on the ramp and the floor and things like that. At some stage, you'll hear me talking about backwards means forwards, because when a horse chooses to back out of a horse float, it means they don't want to be in there and their thoughts are behind them. And the next thing they're going to feel most commonly is the pressure pick up on their pole, and they're going to kind of go, oh, I don't like that, and pull away, just much like if they were tied up and they pull back. So you'll hear me say backwards means forwards. It's not that backwards means forwards, it's just that when they go backwards, they might end up feeling forwards. When they go backwards, they might end up feeling forwards. When they go backwards, they might end up feeling forwards. And that third time, she got a little bit brighter and better at coming forward to that lead pressure. Now, remember, the lead pressure's there to get her to a better place, not just to sort of trap her. And it's also, leading pressure is to get her to think forward into that horse float. And when we get to the horse float where it really means something, we'll kind of see how we can use leading pressure to help her. So backwards and forwards, and you want to be able to do that on both eyes, yeah? Backwards, that was forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards. Oh, a bit of a push there, so I'm going to push there just till she softens up a bit better and come forward. Good girl. And you can do that till she can go back, even better, and forward even better, and really work on that simple transition, that when you snub up on her short, she doesn't feel like she's in a trap, okay? Now, so the other thing, and you would have, anyone that's kind of watching this on the subscription would realise that I spend a bit more time getting horses confident at finding their way out to go on a circle, whether it be looking out to step out or just walking past me to go out on a circle. Why is that important? Well, when a horse walks past you, if you commonly kind of send them out and get them away, they get that nervous point with one eye or the other eye on, where they just go, I'm a bit nervous here. Now, what happens when you send a horse in a horse float to self-load? You're going to go, can you just gently walk past me into that coffin? and they're going to go, ooh, I don't like walking past you, and I don't want to go in there, and it's going to be difficult. So I'm just going to go through that with Fern. Can you just walk past me softly and have enough confidence when I feed that rope out to you that you can keep walking? Good girl, yeah? And I can just follow you along, and you can make a decision on going forward, okay? She's trying to do in a little circle, so I'm going to encourage a little straight on her just to get her going straight. Good, that's better. And I'm going to just draw back on her there. So she didn't try and crab away from me. So what I'm looking for, and before you go to self-loading, I'd be wanting the horses just to walk past me softly where I ask them, whether it's there, there, or there, and they can softly do it without going, ooh, I'm going past you, yeah? So that's another thing. That's got to be a helpful request, not a, oh crikey, I don't want to do that, or I'm nervous. So that's a helpful request. You can just walk past me, and then you're brave enough to think out there and go ahead. You don't always have to be focused on where I am. You can think ahead a little, yeah? So she got a little nervous when I touched her there. That's the other thing I want to know. Can I just let her track along there like that and just rub on her, and be right behind her here like this? That's really important in developing her confidence, because I'm going to be standing behind her at some stage going, it's okay in there, I'm just here. You don't always have to face me. And some horses, especially if it's one of those really kind of wary two-eye-on horses that always got to get their two eyes on you, what's going to happen is they're going to get a little anxious when they're bothered back here, and if you've done a lot of hindquarter yields where you've tipped their haunches away all the time, they might get a bit bothered by the float, and that bother is going to create a desire, and it might be a desire to get two eyes on, so they're going to have to get back out of the float to do that. So you got to think, I don't want a horse feeling that they've always got to face me all the time when they're moving. They can stand, I can rub on them at the back, I can drop that rope, I can stand behind them, they're confident with that, okay? Very important. Now, so we've done forwards, backwards on both sides. We've looked at, okay, when they're ready to self-load, can they walk right past me and go at least that far further, because when you're standing at the rope, for them to get up to the chest bar, they're going to have to walk that far ahead of you. So can they do that? So I'll try that one again. I'm just going to ask her from here, can you walk forward? She's going to try and face me a little there. Good girl, but she walks forward there. Now she's going to kind of wrap around a circle because she's probably a little bit more habit, but see how I can get about that far away from her and get her out further like that, yeah? So I can be right back here and send her, oh look, she's found the gate, so I can send her to there, and then I can redirect her back to here. Okay, so confidence, and that's why, preparing horses, I'm not long-reined, but the way I teach my young horses to go out on circles is I teach them to be confident at finding a straight line, and it's okay to think away and go somewhere, as long as when I pick up a little bit of feel and redirect your thoughts, that you're happy to come along with them. Confidence at being able to look away, think away, is just as important as having a horse's focus on you. So, especially when it comes to sending them up in a horse float, I don't want to send them in thinking I'm chasing them with a flag to take that last step, okay, because that would probably deteriorate their confidence. So okay, we've looked at that. Can they do that on both sides? She walks past me on both sides. She doesn't crab away. Good, we've sort of ticked that box. What else is she going to need to be able to cope with? Okay, I'll get the flag. Here's a bit of anxiety. Scare her. Okay, she just gets her head up. Now, you notice horses, when they get anxious, are going to want to put their head up, because it's their natural mode when it's natural for them when that adrenaline starts to flow to get that head up and get on sort of flight mode, and they get their head up so they get a clearer vision of everything. So what I'm going to do with her, I'm going to bother her a little with this flag, and she's going to get her head up, and they're going to say, well, hang on a minute, while you're bothered, can you feel that rope and yield a little to that pressure? Good. Now if you're not quite comfortable doing this just yet with your horse, then maybe you can just sort of spend a little time just with them, just sort of saying, can you just yield to that? Yeah, can you yield to that? Good. And you could get them right down so they could put their head on the ground if you wanted. lowering their head to pressure, I don't teach people to do it just to say, oh, that, you know, releases endorphin, because I don't necessarily agree with that. But a horse has got to know how to yield to that halted pressure. That's a real good thing for their safety. Okay, so when you're worried, you don't have to stick your head up and bang your head on the roof. When I put that pressure on, I can help you come down, and I could help you come down and come forward. While she's a bit worried by that flag, and see how she could sort of set her head lower and walk in. Okay, so that's something good to think about with our horses before we put them on a horse float. Can they not only yield to pressure when they're standing still, but can we bother them, get them moving their feet, and get them to lower their head? Okay, so that's got to be worked on. Well, none of these things have to be worked on, but they're all going to be things that it's going to be a little requirement when you get to that horse float, and you're going to need that. The other thing is breeching pressure. It's okay, Fern. She's thinking, why are we doing this, so much of this now? I actually videoed all this before, but I didn't have the mic on, so I'm redoing it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of breeching pressure on her. No, she's not standing, so because I just bother her a little bit with that flag, she's a little bit anxious, so she's sort of moving away and getting a bit disconnected. So I'm just going to reset her thoughts a little there. Good girl. Reset your thoughts. I'm just going to get her to just get her to come here and just feel on me a little. Good girl. There. You were getting a bit distant there, weren't you? She was starting to just look off into gaze off to the other horses and forget that I'm here and that I'm her friend. I'm just trying to do a video showing all these things that she has to know before she goes on a horse float. Easy to sort of forget that I'm the one that's helping you too. But it's not just us that's here to help. We don't want just this. We have to have this is to help her get confidence, because it's our ideas that give her confidence. But what's going to happen is she's going to have to be confident on her own, and I'll kind of show you some other things that are going to help with that. But for now, I'm just going to show you a little bit of breeching pressure. So I've just used my long rope here, but if you just got a normal halter rope, I'm just going to wrap that there like that. I'm going to have enough rope here to... Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Got a bit complacent there. Don't be complacent. You never know when things could go wrong. Okay. So what I'm just going to do here is I'm just going to put a little breeching pressure there, get her used to that, you know. So I'm going to put it in different spots. Okay. So, you know, if you've already had a saddle or saddle blanket on your horses and things like that, and you should have had ropes around them a little. So that's something that's just a little bit of breeching pressure around the rump there. Now, the next thing I want to be able to do is put a bit of feel on that breeching pressure, on that breeching rope, and find out that she's not bothered by it. Now, why am I doing this? It's not to teach her to go in the float. It's more so to teach her what the breeching bars are going to do to her when we close them, and if we got to sort of move her a little when we're at the back there, she can cope with it and things like that. Opposed to sort of using a breeching rope to load them. I like to use leading to load them. I don't want the pressure coming from behind so much so. So I'm just going to put a bit of... There, she just steps off. Now, if your horse was to career forwards at 100 miles an hour, it might have stepped off the breeching pressure, but you know it's going to run into the chest bar with a fright and get a panic. So you want to probably, if you've got a horse that's pretty nervous, I'd be doing this until they step softly, just like that. Okay? And then they can stop. Okay? So that's something to think about, and you could almost recreate that with chest pressure as well. So I'll do that too. Breeching pressure, good. Now back up into breeching pressure, because some horses are going to back up into that and suddenly get a shock, because it's okay sometimes when you teach them to come forward to breeching pressure, but when they've chose to walk backwards, they really want to get out, and if you've kind of already put that breeching bar or breeching chain up there, they might get a bit of a shock. So you're going to say back, breeching bar. Good. See how she just bounced off that little like that without jumping? So that's another good thing to think about when you're helping prepare your horses for the float. Okay, so now we might go around the chest here like this. The other thing she's going to have to learn is she's going to walk up and she's going to feel something just on her chest there like that. Good girl. Okay, so you can spend a bit of time. Now if your horse is not too sure, then you can help them with a bit of feel there, and then back them up. But as long as, or I could kind of get that rope all the way around to there and say, you know, what's that side pressure there, what's that front pressure there, you know, what's that squeeze there, can you cope with that without being in a panic? Okay, because when I get her in that horse float, I'm gonna deliberately ask her to touch all the parts of that float and be comfortable with them, so she can use the whole float. Because getting them in there, some horses standing like that, and people wonder why they're scrambles, because they're kind of in there going, I've never touched that, I can't, and they don't have a lot of space. And that's why some horses tend to travel a little better. When people say I keep the bar right off them and move it over, because the horse just spreads out and does that. Okay, so right, reach and pressure, chest pressure, leading. Can you lead past me for when I want to self-load you? Okay, got those worked on. What else can I work on? Tying up. Okay, you might be in an emergency and you're thinking about your kids or whatever. Something's happened. Kids are screaming out or whatever. Nobody's perfect, and I know that you should always undo your horse before you undo that breeching bar. But I've seen it that people just made a mistake and they didn't mean to, and then the horse wasn't ready. They thought they were going to come out, and they went pull, bang, 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 and then they kind of got black eyes, and then they never want to go into a horse float again. So tying up and leading is one of the the really, really important things that we got to teach our horses. So I'm going to show Fern how to do this. Now I just got to wander over here, and I just want her to know that she can go up to that rope. Excuse me. Can you go up to that rope? She goes, that rail gets a bit rattly. I'm a bit frightened of that, and she's snorting a bit at it, but I want to know that she can go up to that rattly rail. Good girl. And if I was to leave her there, I want to know that feels enough to keep her snub tied to that. Now, if she's frightened of being that close up in there like that, she's going to be pretty frightened at going inside that horse float. So I don't want her to think she can pull that rope back any, and she's a little bit bothered there, but she's coping with the pressure, so that's really important. And you can do that on both sides, because something I also like to do on horses is, once I get them self-loading and stuff, is I'll get them to lead in. So instead of me kind of asking them in, I'll put it through the ring and walk out the back and just let them walk straight into the horse float. And once they've done that, they're generally pretty safe at not pulling back. So I'm going to swap sides, take her here. I'm going to walk up this eye, and you're going to walk up to the fence. She goes, I'd like to follow you, but the rope's not telling me to go like that. My rope's telling me to go that way. Some people think they got their horses leading, but when the person walks off in a different direction, the horse goes, I'm going to follow you, and they kind of get panicked that the rope's going in the opposite direction. And that's why I think it's very healthy to get your horses confident and going away, thinking away, not just focus on us all the time. Good girl. Good. Now if I could jump around and bother her a little, or wave the flag a little, she's going to get bothered, and I want to know that she's going to see she's getting bothered there, but she's going, oh, I'm tied up, oh, I'm going to pour, I don't like being this snubbed up tight. Okay, so you could do a little bit of that each day with your horse, just to get them to realise that it's okay, they're going to be okay. And because this is easy compared to her feeling like she's got to be up against that chest bar with her head in that little end there, because some long horses, they're right up against that front, the front of that horse float. So okay, now what else? Think about being creative, Mark. What else? Okay, that's what you guys got to think about. Be creative. What else can we work on? Picking up their feet. Yeah, I could pick up their feet, so I could, something went wrong in a horse float, I could do all that. Yeah, I could work on that. But basically I think I've done most of the things. Hindquarter yields. Okay, so for you guys who got trucks and angle load floats and things like that, hindquarter yields. So most people know that I kind of teach it through the rein a little first. So if I can walk around that circle like that, and I can put a little turn and a twist and add a little indirect rein on her like that, She does that hindquarter yield there, so you're stepping across like that. Good. I could do that from having the indirect rein a little further up here. Good girl. Like that. Just a little hindquarter yield that she's happy about. Okay. I could take her on the other side, hindquarter yielder. Just in here like that. Just step her across a little like that. Good girl. Step her across a little like that. Good. And just by twisting that like an indirect rein, I can do a hindquarter yield, or I could kind of take it up here like I'm going to take it to the belly button, but the one I'm doing down here actually feels the same. It's kind of like take a little twist and it's coming up like an indirect rein to get that hindquarter yield across. So she's already got that not perfectly established because she had a little brace in there when she did it, but she's doing okay at it, so it's enough to kind of get her to move across a little bit in a horse float or something like that. But I have to be able to do it from back here. So if I can teach her just to yield through the rein a little like that, okay, then I can teach her. No, I'm going to rub on her now. She's thinking hindquarter yield, hindquarter yield. No, this is not about movement. Yeah. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, she's anticipating that, so I'm just going to stay with her. Good girl. Stay with her. This is not walking forward. Good. Now I'm going to teach her to yield her hips. I'm going to put a bit of feel there and then take a little indirect rein till she moves. Now you see how she scrambled away from me a little bit like that? She's kind of getting away from me. That's what I don't want that. So if you think the horse is trying to get around to get in another position, it's not to get in another position, it's just to step across a little. So it's almost like we were going to keep riding them. We were going to be, you know, it's not like they're going to get their two eyes on or anything. So I'm just going to come here, put a little feel there. If she does a step across, put a little feel in the rein, and then just stay with her till she stops. Put a little feel on her hip, put a little feel in the rein, step across there, nice. Now at some stage here, I want to just not have to put that feel on the rein, so I put a bit of feel there without any feel on the rein, and she just steps across. Now she shouldn't be running away, she shouldn't be taking more than that one step if you only ask for it. If they're kind of running away, they're escaping from something, so I don't want them to feel like they're escaping from anything. Take a little feel, good, I got that rein there. Take a little feel on that rein, good. Now I'm just going to neutral the rein, and I'm just going to say no rein. You just move across like that. Good girl. Good girl. Nice. She's running away a little, so something I'd be wanting to work on a little bit more on her is just not running away so much. So I just stay with her if I find she's stepping away a little bit too much. Good girl. But I'm pretty happy with that. She'll improve. Good, eh? I think I've covered most of everything. I'll probably think of something once I get to the horse float that I haven't done. But it's good to sort of think about all the things that you need to use when you get to the horse float, not just getting to the horse float and trying to pull out a bunch of tools that the horse is still not sure about or still frightened of.